Imagine an island, smaller than the state of Texas, no great resources, no vast population, and yet, this island would rise to rule a quarter of the world's land and nearly half of its people. This is the story of the British Empire, an empire built on ambition, trade, conquest, and rebellion. It began not with an empire, but with ships. In the age of exploration, English sailors braved uncharted waters, driven by the hunger for gold, spices, and glory. Under Queen Elizabeth I, England became bold. Pirates turned into privateers, adventurers became national heroes, and the empire's seeds were planted. In 1607, Jamestown rose from the wilderness. It was fragile, desperate, but it was the first brick in a new empire overseas. Trade was the empire's lifeblood. From tobacco to sugar, from silks to spices, wealth flowed into English ports at a terrible human cost. The empire's wealth was built on suffering. Millions of Africans were enslaved, forced across the Atlantic in chains to power Britain's rising fortunes. In India, a company became a conqueror. The East India Company built forts, raised armies, and began to rule. The empire's strength lay at sea. The Royal Navy ruled the oceans, its ships, the iron fist of British power. Across the Atlantic, 13 colonies thrived, but under British rule, frustration grew and anger began to boil. When rebellion came, Britain fought with all its might. But the colonies would not bow, and America was born. The loss of America was a shock, but Britain was not finished. Instead, it turned east to India, Africa, and beyond. Coal, iron, and steam turned Britain into the workshop of the world. Factories roared, railways spread, and the empire's engine was unstoppable. In India, Britain was no longer just a trader, it was a ruler. Palaces, railways, and parades of redcoats showed the empire's power. Africa became a prize. Britain carved vast territories, drawing borders with ink and steel, often against the will of its people. Half a world away, Britain sent its unwanted. Convicts and prisoners built new lives on the distant shores of Australia. Under Queen Victoria, the empire reached its zenith. A quarter of humanity lived under the Union Jack, and Britain believed its destiny was divine. But glory came at a price. In Crimea, British soldiers fought bitter winters and Russian guns, a reminder that empires bleed. But empires rule by fear, and fear can spark revolt. In 1857, Indian soldiers rose against their masters, shaking Britain's hold. In China, Britain fought not for freedom, but for profit. Opium was its weapon, and war opened China's ports by force. In South Africa, Britain clashed with Dutch settlers. Trenches, scorched earth, and concentration camps revealed the empire's dark side. As the 20th century dawned, the empire stood vast, but cracks had begun to spread. The sun was still high, but shadows were falling. The empire marched to war. From India to Canada, millions fought under the Union Jack, and millions never returned. The war ended, but peace was fragile. Britain had victory, yet its empire stood shaken, strained, and restless. Once again, the world burned. Britain stood against Hitler this time. Its empire became its lifeline. The jewel of the crown was lost. In 1947, India broke free proof that no empire lasts forever. In Egypt, Britain tried to hold on to power, but the world had changed. Superpowers rose, and Britain's grip slipped. One by one, African nations declared independence. The empire's red map faded to gray. Even British leaders admitted it. The winds of change were blowing, sweeping away centuries of empire. At last, even Hong Kong returned. In 1997, Britain handed over its last great colony to China. Though the empire is gone, its shadow lingers. 50 nations remain linked in the Commonwealth, a family forged from empire. From a tiny island to the ends of the earth, the British Empire rose and fell. It built railways, but also chains. It spread knowledge, but also conquest. And though the empire has vanished, its legacy still shapes our world.